Alright, what's happening, y'all? It's your boy Rico from Street Scores, and I think it's time for a Washington cap space update. I already have a video that I'm working on basically explaining why and who we may be targeting later in free agency, but most importantly, when we may be done making moves for a little while, unless we clear up some cap space, which is what I want to talk about at the end of this video, how the Washington Commanders could clear up some more cap space. But I feel like it's a good time right now to give y'all a cap space update, because I say all of that to say that we more than likely won't be making any big moves at the very least anytime soon. I think it's bargain bin shopping for the remainder of free agency, and you can argue that we've already been doing that. So I wanted to update y'all on the contract details for all free agents signed in 2023. I also want to give a full detailed breakdown of what's going on with Daron Payne's contract that we re-signed him to, Danny Johnson, everybody that we brought back. I'm really excited to talk about it, and of course the thing y'all want to know most, how much cap space do the Commanders still have? It's not a lot, but it's something you can work with. And again, at the end of the video, we're going to talk about how we can get more. But before we dive into all of that, make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit the bell next to the subscription button so you get notification immediately. And every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one, make sure you stay tuned every Sunday for the call-in live stream show where you call in and voice your opinions on everything, ask whatever questions you may have, propose a debate topic that we can all debate. And of course, I got y'all everything free agency, everything draft coming up as well, more mock drafts, film sessions, everything. So stay tuned, and without further ado, let's get it. Alright, so just to let y'all know, for those of y'all who may have missed it, I've already talked about it in previous videos, but Daron Payne's contract extension, signing him to a long-term deal, saved us cap space for 2023. He was originally going to be an almost $19 million cap hit, but with the long-term extension that we gave him, it's a win-win. He gets more money, especially overall, more guaranteed money, which is great for him and his family. And then for us, we save cap space, which is huge for what we did this free agency so far and what we may potentially end up doing moving forward. Daron Payne's contract is 4 years, $90 million, $28 million signing bonus, $60.02 million in total guarantees. That's great money, man. I'm really happy for him. $30K per game roster bonuses in 2024 through 2026, a $5 million roster bonus in 26, and $500K workout bonuses each year. And then his base salaries are $2.51 fully guaranteed this season, 2024 $15 million fully guaranteed, 2025 $19.56 million, and then 2026 $16.4 million. I'm so happy for him, man. But most importantly, for us as Commanders fans, again, I'm very happy for Daron Payne, but how does this affect the Commanders? Well, in 2023, he only has a cap hit of $8.6 million. It was originally going to be $19 million. Now it's $8.6. So really, we almost saved $11 million worth of cap space. It was originally reported to be 9 point something, but when you actually go look at it on Spot Track, it says that we saved almost $11 million in 2023. But then in 2024, this is where it starts. This is where the cap hits start to get us. He's a $21.6 million cap hit in 2024. In 2025, he's a $26.17 million cap hit. In 2026, he's a $28 million cap hit. That's pretty crazy. I mean, of course, cap space is going to increase every season, but what we're getting off with this year, we're not getting off with next year and the years after that, for sure. But he also has a 2027 void year to kind of move $5.6 million worth of cap hit into that year. That cap hit will more than likely be this year and turn his $8.6 million into $13.2 million worth of cap hit, but they took that 5.6 and moved it onto a void year of 2027. So the Commanders are starting to do that finesse stuff that we see other teams doing with void years and stuff like that. We need to get on restructuring some contracts too, though. We're going to talk about that at the end of this video. Also, just a little bit of background info. Shouts out to John Kahn for tweeting this. He said Washington has stayed in touch with Payne's agent Joe Siegel for a while, had let him know before the season even ended that they wanted to retain Daron Payne. Talks heated up after the tag applied, wanted it done before free agency so that they could focus on retaining others and pursuing outside free agents, and it looks like that's what we did. We didn't get any big splashy names, but we were able to keep most of the people that we wanted to keep. We couldn't keep Cole Holcomb, and I already knew we more than likely weren't going to keep Taylor Heineke, but it wasn't a huge priority for them to keep either one anyway, because they easily could have given the money that each of those guys ended up getting to those guys. Cole Holcomb's getting like $6 million a year if they really wanted him. We could have afforded that. What Taylor Heineke's getting, even though it's technically 2 years, $20 million, $10 million a year, it's only like a $3, maybe $4 million cap hit per season because a lot of his contracts includes incentives. Also, through a whole bunch of crazy stuff that's going on, technically the next owner is paying for Daron Payne's contract. Kevin Sheehan did a great job of breaking it down. He tweeted, so on the escrow requirement for the Payne deal, according to Salary Cap 101, the review for the 2023 escrow requirements just took place on January 31st, 2023. Deadline to fund is the end of the month on March 31st, but because the Daron Payne deal came after this year's review date, his deal won't be reviewed for escrow purposes until the next review date, which is January 31st, 2024. So whatever portion of the guaranteed $60 million that hasn't been paid as of next year, that amount will be put in the escrow. So translation, the next owner will pay for it. So that's really interesting. Also, another really random fact before we dive into everybody's contract updates, Daron Payne, who was drafted in 2018, is only 4 months older than Christian Holmes, who was drafted in 2022. Thought that should be mentioned. And now let's get to these new contracts, especially, I know a lot of y'all are probably wondering how much Jacoby Brissett is exactly getting, and Andrew Wylie, Nick Gates, even bringing back Danny Johnson, all of those guys. We're going to get to it, but before we do, I thought it was really interesting that Jacoby Brissett negotiated his own contract with Washington. He had the help of some advisors, but no agent. Says he enjoys the process every year and has never considered hiring an agent. He said, quote, it's always been worth it. Saving the money has always been worth it, unquote. So maybe that's what Lamar Jackson's trying to do right now. But Lamar Jackson is talking way bigger money and more guaranteed money than Jacoby Brissett's doing. So it's a completely different ball game, but it's interesting. All right, so Jacoby Brissett's contract. From over the cap, it looks like Brissett's contract is a 1-year deal worth up to $8 million. And it's a 1-year contract. And with the way that the contract is set up, we are getting hit for that full $8 million. He has a $4.5 million signing bonus, a $3 million base salary, and a $500K workout bonus. But yeah, we're getting hit for that $8 million in cap space. The whole thing is hitting the Commanders' pockets. Now, Andrew Wylie, we don't know the exact details of his contract yet, but he signed a 3-year deal worth $24 million. So at most, it's going to be $8 million per year. But I'm assuming it's probably going to actually hit for about $5 million per year, just based off of the pattern of how contracts usually work. Jacoby Brissett and Cody Barton, I believe, are the only ones that have like fully guaranteed deals. I'm pretty sure Andrew Wylie has quite a bit of incentives in his, like most other guys as well. So I will update y'all on the Andrew Wylie contract as soon as we find out. But moving on, center/guard Nick Gates signed a 3-year contract worth somewhere around $16.19 million per year with an average value of about $5.4 million. It was originally reported that it was $18 million, but when you look at Spot Track, and they're the ones getting the full details directly from the team and the NFL and things like that, it ended up being slightly over $16 million in total. His signing bonus is $5 million. His workout bonuses are $900,000 per year. And then his 2023 cap hit is only $3.27 million. His 2024 cap hit is $5.46, and his 2025 is $7.47. I think that's a really good deal for him. I really like that contract setup for him. So he's getting a little bit more money per year than Andrew Norwell. Then linebacker Cody Barton. Now, through all reports through Twitter, it was said that he signed a 1-year $2.6 million contract fully guaranteed, but there's also a $1 million signing bonus on top of Cody Barton's $2.5 million base salary. So he hits our cap for $3.5 million basically, which is not bad, because if he ends up playing well and doing what I think he can do, especially against the best defensive line he's ever played behind in his life, I'm not saying he's going to go out there and be a Pro Bowler at all. I'm not even guaranteeing he's going to be better than Cole Holcomb, but if he's somewhere around Cole Holcomb's making $6 million a year and Cody Barton is making 3.5 on a 1-year prove-it deal, so he's going to play his heart out so he can try to get a big contract in his 2024 free agency, whereas Cole Holcomb already got pretty decent money over the course of 3 years. Cody Barton's more motivated. That's arguably a steal, and there's a reason why the Commanders wanted Cody Barton, whether they brought back Cole Holcomb or not. The priority for them was to get Cody Barton, and then if they could bring back Cole Holcomb, that would be extra, but Cody Barton was clearly the guy they wanted most, and it's probably mostly because of the money, but also there's a lot of potential there as well. Of course, with cornerback Cameron Dantzler, since we picked him up off waivers, He wasn't actually signed as like a full unrestricted free agent technically. So his cap hit is just the final year of his rookie contract, which will hit us for $2.74 million, which is a pretty good deal for the type of potential that he has. He has starting potential. I'm not guaranteeing it. I'm not saying that we just signed our starter opposite of Benjamin St-Juste and Kendall Fuller's going to immediately move to the slot and things like that. I'm still saying get Christian Gonzalez in the first round if we can. But there's some potential there, and for less than $3 million against the cap, technically a one-year prove-it deal on the last year of his contract, we should expect the best out of him with him trying to get big money. I'm never mad at cheap one-year prove-it deals. So far, since Jeremy Reaves is a restricted free agent, he will count as $2.63 million against the cap in 2023, but they do want to sign him to a long-term deal. And like I keep saying in other videos, to compare what he may eventually get from us to what the Saints paid their special teams ace JT Gray. That JT Gray guy got a 3-year $9.6 million contract with $3.5 million guaranteed, and a lot of it is incentives. Now his contract is weird because he even has like a weird void year in 2027, but his cap hit is only $1.58 million this season, 3.4 the next season, and 3.5 after that. And then again, he has a void year in 2026 that takes off $960,000, and then another void year in 2027. So his contract is super weird. But either way, the Commanders could base their potential long-term contract with Jeremy Reaves on that, because he is a very important part of this team. And JT Gray is a special teams ace, but Jeremy Reaves was all pro and Pro Bowl. So yeah, he has more credentials for a nice long-term contract than even JT Gray does. So JT Gray may be the starting point for Jeremy Reaves' agent when he's talking to the Commanders. Then we also brought back Danny Johnson on a nice little 2-year extension. He only made $632,000 last year. Now through his extension, that is worth $4.91 million with $2.7 million guaranteed. His cap hit in 2023 will be $2.29 million, and his cap hit in 2024 will be $2.62 million. And for a guy that can step in and basically start in the slot for you during playoff runs and play well, that's great value right there. Like, great value. And he can return kicks if you ever need him to. Khaleke Hudson was another restricted free agent. We signed him to a 1-year contract worth $1.5 million with a $300K signing bonus. So go out there and show that you belong in this linebacker group. You looked great against the Cowboys in that final game of the season, along with a lot of other younger guys. Chris Paul, Percy Butler, Sam Howell, a lot of rookies. But you're not a rookie. You were on the last year of your rookie contract. But it's nice to finally get some flash out of you. Better late than never. But we got to see if you can go out there and earn that next big contract after this season. Maybe he'll be a pleasant surprise for us. Then wide receiver Marcus Kemp, who's being brought here with Eric Bieniemy from the Chiefs, is a special teams guy. I feel like you can keep both him and Cam Sims, honestly. I can see the argument for him being Cam Sims' replacement, especially with them having very similar size, being bigger receivers and both special teams guys. But Cam Sims is more so on special teams coverage. Mark Kemp is more so special teams blocking, but you can really use both for either. It would be nice if we can end up keeping both. And I've heard reports, I believe through John Com, that the Commanders are trying to bring Cam Sims back on a really cheap deal. It's up to him whether he wants to sign it or not. It's really interesting because Cam Sims has been like a restricted free agent every offseason for like the last 2-3 years. But this year, he's an unrestricted free agent, so now he could just decide to go somewhere else if he really wants to. Plus, Marcus Kemp has like, what, 2 receptions in his entire career or something like that, whereas Cam Sims is clearly deep into the double digits. So even though Marcus Kemp does have Cam Sims's body profile and similar traits, and even though he does contribute a lot on special teams, he hasn't done what Cam Sims has done on the field for offense yet, at least. But he got a $1 million contract with a $50,000 signing bonus, very cheap, barely hitting the cap. Tyler Larsen, the center, we're bringing him back as a backup center, even though Nick Gates is technically a backup center as well, but he's really just a Wes Schweitzer replacement, backup center, backup guard, but he'll mostly focus on center. And I'm gonna do a whole video breaking down the entire offensive line and where everybody is supposed to play. It's already been announced where Andrew Wylie will more than likely play, where Nick Gates will more than likely play, all that type of stuff. And we're gonna run through offensive line scenarios, best case scenario, realistic, all of that. So stay tuned for that. I'll probably do that later today. But again, Tyler Larsen is being brought back as a backup center, so we still have injury-prone Chase Roulier and Tyler Larsen, but at least Tyler Larsen is only on a vet minimum contract, which is just over $1 million for this season, with a $152.5 million bonus. And that's literally what he played on last year. Pennies, basically. So it doesn't really hurt us. And man, hey, I'll take $1 million any day. So that's really not pennies, but NFL cap space wise, as a fan base, we should be very happy about that contract. And also another person whose contract that we don't exactly know every little detail about is F.A. Obada. It's been reported that F.A. Obada signed a 1-year contract worth up to $3 million. And I think that's a very good deal for him because he flashed quite a bit last year as part of the defensive line rotation, especially off the edge. But he can even play a little inside if you need him to as well. So that's positional flex. But we never got an official breakdown of how his contract exactly works, like through spot track and things like that. So we don't exactly know everything about his contract yet, but you can kind of assume that it's going to be somewhere probably less than $3 million against the cap at the very least. And so until we know exactly how much Andrew Wylie is counting against the cap and F.A. Obada is counting against the cap, according to spot track right now, we have $8.5 million worth of cap space. When Andrew Wylie comes in, it's probably going to be like 5. When F.A. Obada comes in, it's probably going to be like 1 or 2. So pretty much expect us to really technically only have like maybe around $2 million worth of cap space right now. So we're going to have to figure some things out because remember, you need somewhere around $3.5 million to sign draft picks for this upcoming draft. So we don't even potentially have that much right now. So we're gonna have to figure some things out. But before we dive into everybody that we should just go ahead and either release or restructure, Mark Bullock made a great point pointing out the fact that the Nick Gates deal and kind of his role for the team is literally just like Wes Schweitzer's deal back in 2020. And then following that same 2020 theme, Wylie's contract is significant, but not huge, similar to Kendall Fuller's in 2020. Cody Barton's 1-year deal is very similar to Ronald Darby and Kevin Pierre-Lewis's 1-year deals when they came here. Not many big names in that 2020 free agency class, but it was very productive. They found Logan Thomas and J.D. McKissick in that class on the cheap. And then Cornelius Lucas was a solid backup swing tackle who's still on the team, and then Peyton Barber had a productive role. And Darby and KPL were both starters. So basically Ron Rivera is sticking to the script. This is how he typically is. This is how he's been since he's been our head coach, and he's basically doing the same thing. Even though I do feel like Andrew Wylie and Nick Gates and Cody Barton could potentially have pretty big impacts for this team. But they clearly focused on bringing back all of the guys that they really wanted to bring back, and they did that. So I can't be mad at that. Now, again, I've already done a video on a complete breakdown of all of the contracts we should restructure as the Commanders. But just to get straight to it, man, Logan Thomas right now is eating up almost $9 million in cap space. If you release him, he'll be $3.5 million worth of dead cap, but he'll save us like a little over $5 million. You could pay the whole draft class right there and still have a little left over. But if you don't want to cut Logan Thomas, because even with Logan Thomas, I'm a little bit worried about our tight end group. I love the potential. I love the ceiling. I love the athleticism and all of the different receiving traits and all of those guys and versatility, but we don't have much of a floor. John Bass is the only kind of safe guy, but even then he doesn't have much of a ceiling that's exciting. So if you cut Logan Thomas, that just creates an even bigger problem than what we already have even with Logan Thomas on roster. So find a way to restructure him and get that almost $9 million cap hit down to like maybe 3, because after the season he had last year, he should be lucky that we're not cutting him. And then you have Chase Roulier eating up almost $12.5 million worth of cap space. Cutting him wouldn't save you enough money to be worth it, because he would leave around $8.1 million in dead cap. So you would only save about $4 million, which would be nice, but then you're losing your starting center, even though he only plays half a season anyway, really. But we got to go into the season hoping that he does play an entire season. So it would still be nice though to change that $12 million cap hit, 12.5 really, into something else, something less, like maybe $7 million, $6 million or something, because again, cutting them doesn't make a lot of sense. I mean, we potentially have Nick Gates that can start at center if you need him to. We brought back Tyler Larsen, but you can't depend on Tyler Larsen to stay healthy, because just like Chase Roulier, it seems like he's destined to get hurt at some point in the season as well. Both of those guys back to back. That's how we ended up with Nick Martin starting at center and Wes Schweitzer at times. Again, Wes Schweitzer is more than likely gone to some other team in free agency, probably asking for more money than Nick Gates, and the Commanders was like, all right, we'll just take Nick Gates. And then speaking of Nick Gates, I mean, he fully recovered, but remember, he came off of an injury that was severe against us. He suffered like a severe leg injury to where he had to miss like over a year, and there were even fears that he may have to get his leg amputated, how bad the injury was. And he's still really good right now, but I'm not necessarily going into the 2023 season expecting all 3, Nick Gates, Chase Roulier, and Tyler Larsen, to stay healthy. So again, Chase Roulier, man, not really worth cutting him, but man, get that contract restructured, man. Figure figure that out. And then Charles Leno eating up $12.5 million worth of cap space, and he may end up being our starting left tackle, and that's pretty good money for a starting left tackle, but based off of the season he had last year, and I don't think it was anywhere near as bad as a lot of people act like it was, but hey man, if we could just kind of tap him on the shoulder and ask him to take a slight pay cut, at least per year wise, move some of that contract somewhere else, convert it into like a signing bonus, I don't care, roster bonus, however you got to do it, get some of that cap space back. Also, if you want to go ahead and extend Montez Sweat or Chase Young, maybe that would be beneficial, because right now Montez Sweat is eating up $11.5 million against the cap. Chase Young is eating up $11 million. If you go ahead and give them a long-term deal, basically finesse the situation like how you did with Daron Payne, you can lower those cap hits right now. Remember, Daron Payne again was supposed to be an almost $19 million cap hit in the 2023 season. After we gave him a long-term deal, it kind of stretched it out and changed things to where he only ended up being like around an $8 million cap hit, which saved us around $10 million. You can do something similar with Montez Sweat and or Chase Young if you want to go ahead and give them long-term contracts. Now, I doubt it, because I'm not sure if they trust them enough, and Chase Young and Montez Sweat may hold out and bet on themselves this season so they can get big money next season. They probably wouldn't be willing to sign a cheaper contract right now, but there's an idea. And then Andrew Norwell, I'm still surprised he's on the team. I'm just gonna assume he ends up probably getting cut at some point. He's a $5 million cap hit. If you cut him, he's $2.8 million worth of dead cap, so you would save somewhere around $2.2 million. So that's another way to create cap space right there. So right now, technically, if you add in our draft class, we're in the negative. So don't expect us to go out there and sign any big name free agents, because we're struggling to already pay the guys that we currently have on the roster. But I do expect us to make some type of moves to free up cap space for sure. But yeah, man, that's the end of this video. Please get in the comment section. Let me know how you feel about everything discussed in this video. Please leave a like on this video if you liked it, if you learned anything. As always, man, I appreciate all the support, man. Shouts out to all of my sponsors, especially my Pro Bowl sponsors, whose name you see scrolling on the screen right now. Let me know how you feel about all of these contracts that I updated y'all on. How do you feel about the Commanders' current cap space, and how do you feel about some of these potential cuts and restructures that we could do? Give me your ideas in the comment section as well. And without further ado, catch y'all later. I'm out.